When you want to create a property on a particular object, you're going to go to where we have the select an object and select the particular object you want to create the property on, right? So if you want to create a property on contact, you're going to select contact, and if you want to create property on company, you're going to select company. So I will be working with the contact as the object I want to create most of my properties inside. Now, when you're creating properties for contact, it does not reflect on companies until you use a specific type of property. So don't get yourself confused as to where the property is going to sit. If you create property for contact, it sits inside contact, except you are trying to reference a field or reference a property to a different associated record. Now let me show you. So first we are going to create click on the create property button. And when you click on the create property button, it's going to ask you for the property label, which is the name of the property you want to create. What do we call this? I'll call it subject. So subject is the name of this field I'm creating, and the field type, I'm going to start with the first field type. The field type is a single line text. This single line text is what I call a universal property because it's an open text box. It's an open text box that helps to, what it does is that it allows you to just input whatever you want to input. It can allow for alphabet, any character or phone or number or amount, whatever you want to input, it automatically accepts it. And then if you want to make this require values for this property, this means that when you check this required box, this property this subject field must be updated. There must be a value on it before the record will be saved. So when you create this property and it's sitting on a page layout of a contact, you cannot leave this field empty. It must have a value inside it before you can save it. That is what this required means. So when I click create property, it goes ahead to create the property. Now, the second option we have for creating property is the multi-line text. This is the one I call the multi-universal field. It can allow you to input a whole long note inside it. Like a subject of a matter might be I can't log in, or error while trying to log in, but the description might say, as a service user while trying to log in using a Google browser or Safari, I'm not able to log in. It contains everything. So this multi-line text is majorly used for things like description, long text explanations, and is very necessary to know the type of field, the type of content you are going to use for a field before creating it. So I advise, if you are going to be creating things like description, it's better and more universal to use multi-line text. So I'm going to call this description, and I'll create the property. So I need to have a track of the property that I've been creating. I've created the subject, the description, and then we should go to the next one. The next one is the number. I'm going to call this amount. This number allows you to input just figures 0 to 9. So it's suitable for collecting data that has to do with amount, meters, measurements, in numbers. Anything that has to do with numbers is good. You use this number field for it. So I'm going to create the property. You can change the format to be formatted, unformatted, and specifically for amount, you can change the format to be currency. So what happens when you use currency? When you use currency, it means that if you input 100 in the amount field, and then your account is a UK based account, it's going to appear as 100 GBP, right? So I'm going to create the property and use it for amount. And then the next one is the single checkbox. So this single checkbox is just a field that is more like a boolean. It returns either true or false. So if the box is checked, it means it's true. If it's unchecked, that means it's empty, it's null, and then it's false. So what should I call this? Let me call it agent. So assuming your organization is a real estate agency, and you are creating a contact for agents and buyers, and then you want to be sure that this is an agent, right? Or a buyer. If the box is checked, it means the person is an agent and not an actual buyer. So let's create this property, and that is what the single checkbox is all about. Then let's assume that your organization is still a real estate agent organization, and then you want to create multiple checkboxes, because I can be a buyer and I can also be an agent, meaning I can purchase this property and then resell it to another person, right? So what I have to do is just to use the multiple checkbox for people that are interested in multifunctional businesses. So I want to be diversified. I don't just want to buy the property for personal consumption, and I can even buy it for personal consumption. I just want to buy and then reinvest the property. So I will call this buyer type, and then when I call it buyer type, I'll put the option 1 as agent, and then buyer, and I can put the third option as broker. So this is what the multiple checkbox does. It allows you to check multiple options at a go, and then the value sits inside the field. Now I'm going to create this property, and we move on to the next one. So the next one is the radio select. Do you know the radio select is this type of field that comes with button? It looks more like a button, and when it looks more like a button, right? And when you select multiple options, it still acts like the multiple checkbox and sits inside the same property that. So I'm going to just think of something to call this property label. I can call it what should I call it? Let me say preference or payment preference or currency. So I'll use with dots because I prefer with dots, and I'm going to say pounds, euro, and dollars, and naira, and rupees. So I can add multiple options just like the radio select, and I don't even know if this the actual spelling of this, but this is what the radio select does. So you can select multiple options, and then we can now click on create property for the radio select. So far we have created the single text, the multi as the subject, the multi-line text as the description, the number as amount, the single checkbox as agent, the multi checkbox as buyer type, the radio select as currency, and then the drop down select is more like a pick list value. All these fall in the same field. It depends on the design, on the specification of your requirements, and it allows for multiple options. It allows you to input multiple values for a field so that it drops down, like where we have the property type of duplex, terrace, block of flat, and bungalow. So I'm not going to be creating this drop down select since we have it, because nothing is actually coming to my head as values for this, but you can try it out on your own and see what it looks like. And then I'm going to select the next one, which is the rich text. So this rich text, right, I don't know why it's not coming up, but let's leave this for now. I think I have some fields that I'm going to talk about in the next session, and rich text is among it. So the phone number is a type of field that just collects phone numbers because it has the country codes. It's automatically pre-built with country codes. So if you're using a phone number field or creating a phone number field, you're automatically going to just collect phone number for the field. If you don't use a phone number for that field, trust me, it's not going to validate any input that is going into that field. Let me show you what I mean by duplicating, going to my contacts, and I'll show you what I mean. So when you create a phone number field, use a phone number field, you can't collect any other data in that particular field except it's a phone number. So when you are trying to create a contact and then you're trying to collect the phone number, so if I select this and clean the value and then type my number, you see that it's applying the number formatting. And if it says this phone number is not valid because it's in the wrong format. But if I select my country code as Nigeria and then retype this number, I don't even need to retype it. It has already validated this number. So this is what I mean by saying you can't collect any number with the phone number field. Next on the line is the date picker. So this date picker is just a field that picks the date, and I will show you here. This is not the date picker, this is the date and time picker. So the date picker looks like this, but it does not have the time and the time zone behind it. So when we see the create date is the date and time picker. So when you just want to collect a particular date, you're going to use the date picker. For instance, you want to collect the date of birth, you are going to use the date picker and not the time picker. And when you want to collect things like values like or data as like created date or closing date or deal close date, whatever date you have, and at this particular time you want to create like when you look at last modified fields, it comes with the accurate time. So this date gives us proper insight into what is happening and who modified this and the exact time a record was created. So this is what the date picker and the date and time picker stands for. And then we have the calculation field. This calculation field is simple. It's just a calculation field that helps you to solve equations. You can calculate things like, probably you have a date of birth or you have a created date and you want to calculate the age of a record, how long this record has stayed in your account. From the date it was created to now, it should always calculate and it will automatically update in real time. This is what the calculation property is used for. So you have custom equations where you can write your formulas. For instance, let me write a formula here and say I'm going to use output as Boolean, and then it's going to return true or false. So I want to calculate, let me write property selected. Terrace building. For instance, I want to calculate the number of I want to check if a particular contact selected the terrace building as the property type that they are interested in. So it's going to check if a contact has selected terrace under the property type. Now I want to use the if statement, so I'm going to insert a function. This calculation property is so elaborate that it provides you the function, and also it provides you the formula guidance, so you can turn it off if you are a pro, and you can leave it to guide you if you're not a pro. Now this function I'm going to use here is if. I'm going to make use of if function. If function sets up a conditional expression. Now inside the if function, you see the formula guidance here. If this condition is whatever you put in there, it should be true or it should return false. Now the property I'm going to use is the property type. So this is the property type here, and I'm going to say if the property type equals terrace, I'm going to cover my terrace in parentheses, equals terrace, right, comma, true or false. Now if there is an error, it's going to show you that there is an error. Let me just remove false, and it will throw an error and tell me that false is not a known keyword. So when you're using boolean, you should be able to spell out your false as false, and then the if function expects an argument of boolean, but we received type undefined. So this is showing that there is an error, but when you write your formula properly, it's going to return validate the syntax and say that there is no issue. Now there is no issue, and if I create this thing, once a record has been created and the property type is terrace, it checks the box. And then once a property has been created and the property type is not terrace, the box remains unchecked. So let me show you. This is the property type, and is an enumeration, which means it's a pick list or drop down select value, and I'm going to select bungalow. So I will test the formula and it returns false. But if I select terrace and test the formula, it returns or is returning false. Let me just change the spelling of my terrace and see, test the formula, is returning true right now. So, and I will create this formula, create this property since it's working properly. So these are the things you need to check. Assuming I didn't test this formula, I'm not going to recognize the facts or notice the fact that I spelled the terrace with the small letter, but it should be the exact value that you have in your enumeration property or your drop down select or whatever field or property you're working with. So let's create the property, and later when we're talking about page layout, we have to go back and update all these fields and see how they function from the front end. Now the other type of property we need to create is the roll up. But in the calculation, there are so many other things to do. You can change it to time between or time since, probably time since the create date, and it calculates, let me write age of creation, age of contact. It calculates exactly the time that the record was created to the particular time you're looking at it. So let's say a record was created yesterday, and they are looking at a record today. The age is going to be saying 2 days. So this is what another thing you can do with the calculation property. Another thing you can also do with the calculation property is, calculation property is very vast. You can calculate a whole lot of things. You can calculate time between maybe the created date and the close date, time since or time until, and then you can also change it from custom equation to, what other thing can you do here? Okay, that's it for this. You can change it between custom equation, time since, time between for the calculation. And then the next thing you can be able to calculate is using the roll up. The roll-up is a field that calculates the number of records associated to a particular record. So for instance, you want to calculate the number of tickets associated to a contact. Probably a contact has created cases or raised tickets over time, and then you want to gain insight into the number of tickets without going to the ticket record, and probably start assigning this ticket based on the number or the highest value. You should be able to use the count on the roll-up, and then check the associated record. So let me say I'm counting the number of emails on a particular record. So I'm going to, on a particular contact record, how many emails has been to and fro this record, and I'm going to score the record probably with this. This is how to roll up the number of emails on a particular record, and then you can add your condition, or to say if this is this, calculate this property. If this is not this, do like this. So that is just or score the record. So that is how to use the roll-up function or the roll-up property in HubSpot. The other property is property sync. Property sync is simply a mirror field. Let me say you have a contact, and the contact has a company. A company is an account. Maybe I'm working for HubSpot and I have an account with this org, and then HubSpot is an account, and then my contact will be associated with this account, with the HubSpot account. So you will see it under the related records. Now, what do I want to do? What can I mirror with this property sync? I want to mirror, for instance, when a user has been, probably a contact is created or an account is created, and then he has a particular sales rep that is managing this account. Every other record or contact associated to this company or account should be managed by the same sales rep. So what we do is to give it a name and say the company, and then you search the associated record. I will search the company owner, and then I will use all the association labels because I don't want anyone to left out. Choose which company to sync from, the first created, or let me use the most recently created because people can leave businesses. And then what I can do is to sync the property. What I can do is to sync the company data from the company to the contact. So the company owner becomes, now we are working on the contact. So when I create this, the company owner or the sales rep that this owner has, that has been assigned the account, becomes the owner of all the associated contacts. So this is what the property sync does. It mirrors the exact field. For instance, you want to sync okay, let me sync a company email. You want to sync a company email from a company to a contact. So once a company has been created, and then an email or city or whatever field has been updated, it should reflect on all the contacts associated to this company. So this is what the property sync does. Then again, we have the file. This is the field that allows you to update files, documents, PDF into HubSpot. So we have the HubSpot user. This is the field that allows you to create owners of records, like an owner or a user that you have created becomes a user of a record. This is the field that does that. And the URL is the field that collects link. It allows you to update website link, any type of link, so long as it's a valid link, it's going to accept it. And then the email is a field that allows you to create email. So this is the wholesome and elaborate description of how to create fields and what each field does in HubSpot. If you have any question, please leave in the comment section, and see you in my next session. Bye. Or let me use the most recently created because people can leave businesses. And then what I can do is to sync the property. What I can do is to sync the company data from the company to the contact. So the company owner becomes, now we are working on the contact. So when I create this, the company owner or the sales rep that this owner has that has been assigned the account becomes the owner of all the associated contacts. So this is what the property sync does. It mirrors the exact field. For instance, you want to sync okay, let me sync a company email. You want to sync a company email from a company to a contact. So once a company has been created, and then an email or city or whatever field has been updated, it should reflect on all the contacts associated to this company. So this is what the property sync does. Then again, we have the file. This is the field that allows you to update files, documents, PDF into HubSpot. So we have the HubSpot user. This is the field that allows you to create owners of records, like an owner or a user that you have created becomes a user of a record. This is the field that does that. And the URL is the field that collects link. It allows you to update website link, any type of link, so long as it's a valid link, it's going to accept it. And then the email is a field that allows you to create email. So this is the wholesome and elaborate description of how to create fields and what each field does in HubSpot. If you have any question, please leave in the comment section, and see you in my next session. Bye.